House Bill 495, which we think is finished in printing, we think. Do you have an update on 495? Okay. Excellent. Excellent. We're going to go ahead and look at 482, and I'm going to we talked about that yesterday. I'm just going to go ahead and look at the a couple of the changes that we made, and there are a couple of things that we're going to ask Ms. Long about when she gets here, just to make sure what she did, because she changed. I think she changed the section of law where the probation or the corrections piece is, and we're going to ask her what that was about. But we do have the parole piece on, beginning with line 19 there, section 2 obviously, and line 36 through 40 includes the language that parole asked for to get parole included in the retirees being able to keep their service weapons. There's a couple of questions that are more technical, I believe, that we'll ask Ms. Long. Any of y'all have anything at this point that any questions or comments on either section 1 or section 2, the Department of Corrections or the parole piece? Okay. Any comments from anybody? Public comments, or from the department or the parole board? No. Okay. We're going to address a couple of technical questions to our attorney. You can just have a seat right there by Representative Green, if you would, Ms. Long.
About to fall down.
I do know that Ms. Long has been working hard today, not only on these pieces of legislation, but surprisingly, she has another stack of things that she's working on as well. Ms. Long, we did have a question on line 11. Okay, 482, line 11, 42-216. Was that in a different location originally?
I did change the location. Rather than put it out with the board, I just put it at the end of the provisions rather than create a point one. We don't create a point one.
Okay.
Big deal. It's just a draft issue.
Okay.
If you can help it.
So on line,
I don't see any reason why to put it earlier in that section.
on line 16, is the board identified in this code section where we're clear that the board is the Board of Corrections?
It's the Department of Corrections is the Board of Pardons and Paroles. Should be board. In section 2, section 1 is Department of Corrections.
Right, on line 16, where the board is authorized to promulgate rules and regs?
Oh, that's the Board of Public Safety, yes.
The Board of Public Safety or the Board of Department of Corrections?
Board. No, it's who does rules and regs for the corrections? Board of Corrections. Okay, they're all identified in there, though.
Okay.
42, yeah.
So we're satisfied that line 16 is clearly enough defined that we know that it's the Board of the Department of Corrections.
Yes, that's in the same chapter. Yes.
Okay.
It just moved it a little ways down.
Okay. And then line 39, clearly that board is defined as the Board of Pardon and Parole for that piece. Okay. If you could grab that microphone and turn it on as well, and just pull the switch toward you.
Yes, sir. I do have a question on section B with the parole officer with his badge. When we're striking the rules and regulations, but I've got no problem with him keeping his badge, but we don't want him to use his badge to enter into a place that he used to go into, or flash it at a car, or this, that, and the other. And should we leave the rules and regulations there so that they can say you can't do this, or we need to say you can't use it for anything other than put it on your wall?
We just moved the rules and regulations down to section D, and it's just duplicated right here.
Okay, I see it.
Yeah, it was just no reason to have it more than once.
But
in the
would we be comfortable with their rules and regulations saying they can't use the badge for something other than memorabilia?
Is that not already covered, Ms. Rocker?
Okay.
That's already covered in another area of the statute? Okay. Excellent question. Any other questions or comments first? Are we comfortable?
I would like to point out, and I can change it
Turn.
back. I changed it to 20 years to be consistent with the badge provisions. Both corrections and parole has a badge provision, and they're both 20 years. So I moved this to 20 years just to be consistent. If y'all's original had 25.
So the Department of Corrections badge provision is 20?
Correct.
I think DNO is too.
Yeah, I think most people go 20. Some folks can't get 25 or 30 in because they're transferring from another agency before they come there, so their service years are not going to work out.
Okay. Ms. Heath, do you have...
I'm sorry, yes, sir. Line 2 has been changed to say former certified employees. If that's going to be an issue with...
So your concern is you want to make sure that we're not opening this up to where people that retired 20 years ago can come to you and say, hey, that wouldn't do that, would it, Ms. Long?
Employee leaving.
It's in the subject area up to line 2.
Line 2. Yeah, that doesn't. That
doesn't actually.
Legal.
There's no authority of law with the subject area, correct?
That's just to reiterate that they were previously employed with the department. That folks don't have a right to retain the weapon when they're currently employed, but that's really just directory language. We can change it to be whatever. That's not part of the law at all.
Okay.
It's given a summary. Some of them are retired, some of them are not retired.
Technically, it is unconstitutional if the preamble doesn't say what the rest of it says.
As long as it's generally placing people on notice, and that can be very, very general, so...
Another question, Ms. Long. Our original bill did specify certified peace officer. It now says certified officer. That doesn't make. I mean, that's still in caps. That still grabs the same individuals, correct? A certified officer.
I think we were going
a certified officer that has a service weapon is going to be a peace officer, correct?
Certified parole officer, certified corrections officer, certified probation officer, they're all the same. Yes, sir.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that I assumed that was the case, but sometimes assumptions are better to ask the question and know for sure rather than to assume. Any other questions or comments? Representative Kidd, I recognize you for a motion.
Substitute to 482 LC 352961S.
We have a motion due pass LC 352961S by committee substitute with a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. 482 is passed. Do we have language now for 495 substitute, Ms. Long?
Yes, we do. Hot off the press.
Hot off the press. Thank you so much.
And I might point out that the press was still moving.
It is.
May not be exactly right.
So if there's a page out of order that's
If we spell cat K-A-T, there's something fine.
so we have a disclaimer on the front end.
Yes, sir.
Representative Hill, I know you've been working throughout the course of the day with Ms. Long, and I think Ms. Perea has been working as well on this. I'm going to turn to you, Representative Hill, and let you share what you would like to share. I tell you what, if you don't mind, grab that microphone and let's leave this one here for Representative Donahue if he has any questions. And I'll let you share with us what you would like and bring guests along with you at any point that you so choose.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And this is hot off the press. I will be going through it for the first time on its newest version, as you will. So hopefully I won't miss anything. And if any of the people from the department see something that I'm missing, please let me know. If you need
Oh, I'm
to
sorry.
get a copy
One to state properties, that would be good. Do you have another one?
No, that's it.
Frank, if you could,
Okay.
Sorry. I only made 10 copies.
y'all would like to sit
No
up here
problem.
in case
Y'all want to go ahead and
case you
join
see
Representative
something.
Hill? This,
missing. But Mr. Chairman and committee, we'll kind of reiterate a little bit of what we talked about yesterday when we had a meeting and we looked at all the general ideas everybody was trying to put together into this bill. And I'll try and recap them. Hopefully I didn't miss anything of importance. But down on line 16, we did pick up the proper definition of conveyance. Again, the first time we've ever had that out there is on line 33, wrapping up the concept of property rather than trying to name everything is just any real property that is titled in the state. In section 2, we did, as we talked about, pre-allow the conveyance of state property up to a value of $500,000 based on an approval or an opinion of value. And as we discussed that, the appraisal would be done in the case it's going to a private party, and the opinion, if it's going to stay, as most of them are, to another public entity. And then excuse me, I'm reading as fast as I can.
oh, you're fine. We are as well.
And then section 3 pretty much adds up that the every year the commission will submit a report to the appropriate chairman of both the Senate and the House of the properties that they would like to convey. And that those conveyance will be picked up on line 181. A private entity, again, will have a public competitive bid process on those to value them. And then the biggest change picks up starting on line 192, where that the commission will, again, go out and give at least a 30-day prior written notice of its intention to convey property to the legislators which have legislative districts containing all or a portion of the property of that conveyance. And if any member of the assembly objects to the conveyance in writing not later than 30 days following the mailing of that notice, then the commission shall no longer be authorized to convey the property without the direct approval of the General Assembly. So that gives the legislators the absolute opportunity to look at it and make sure that they are in concurrence with that. And let's see, and that allows, if we go over to a couple pages to page 8 on line 249, again, we've allowed the conveyance of up to $500,000 without unless there's an objection to it. And on line 261, this, let me catch up before I go through. Is that restated?
I think that's just walking through the process of how we would bring conveyance.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think
over the $500,000.
Yeah, 261, just go through that process of how we would bring the conveyance if it's over the $500,000.
And let me ask here, in scanning over this, it looks like that it's exactly the same process that we have now. Is that correct? Okay.
But we did leave the option, starting on line 296 on page 9, that the, up to twice, and no more than twice, outside of the regular session, that the proper committees can meet and submit a list of properties that they would like to convey to the President of the Senate or to the Speaker. And, of course, a copy of that resolution would also be provided to the member of a legislative district that contains all or a portion of the property, just as in the other case. And this would be another list of properties that they would consider being conveyed, but not until the next meeting of the General Assembly would it become an official report. But that gives them an opportunity to kind of do some pre-work and prepare a report.
Let me ask a procedural question on this part. If we do this and we come to the House and the Senate, and for some reason that I don't anticipate would happen, but let's just say something did happen, that the Senate or the House rejected it, what does that do?
Nullifies the conveyance.
It's the same as what we do now. If we were to reject a property now, they don't actually enter into a binding agreement until after approval. They can't enter into a binding agreement. So it's the same as what we would do now. It's the same thing.
So this is just kind of a pre-notice of what we're working on, what we would like to convey, but they can't actually enter into an agreement on it.
It's the same process as now, but it's faster.
This speeds it up a little bit.
A little bit.
This speeds it up by a few months. If you choose to go this route, and it's an option, it's not a requirement, it's a may and not a shall.
Correct.
So if we choose to go this route with conveyance, what it would do would be give the opportunity, even within the first week of session, to run it through the House and the Senate and get it passed, because it's not assigned to a committee. And it doesn't go through, it has to be read 3 times on each side, but it doesn't have to go through that committee process. So it speeds up the process if you choose to do it. Okay.
The governor can still veto it, right?
Yes, sir.
The governor can always veto it.
Or,
As the chair of the Properties Commission, my guess is the governor would not let it get to that point if he was going to veto it.
but that goes to the next question. Does this give the governor any additional authority to convey something that he doesn't already have independently?
I don't think y'all can answer this better than I can. It doesn't seem to be given an additional authority, maybe just a cleaner process. Is that?
Well, the language we're talking about here is almost exactly what we do now, so it is no additional authority to the governor. But if you're talking about the threshold does give a little more authority to the State Properties Commission outside of what this language is. But this language here, as written, is almost identical to what we do now, in the addition of the outside meetings that would speed up the process and save some of the committee meetings. Again, would give the governor no additional power.
So if the governor,
Yes.
if the governor wants to convey something, it has to go from the commission which he chairs to the legislature, or go that route without the vote, 7 days faster.
Yes, if it's below a certain value, it can be done, provided that the speaker and the lieutenant governor and the chairman of committees and legislators who are impacted by those areas are all given written notice of the intent, and if just one legislator replies back an objection to it, then it will be stopped by just that one legislator's objection.
Notification to the legislators is by mail. Should we put it by certified mail?
That's fine.
I'm just, sometimes mail does move a little slow.
Sure.
Or get mixed up.
Sometimes it ends up in the wrong place, too. Not me. I'm just talking about some of my colleagues I've heard talk about it.
Most definitely. But that would just be a stopgap to make sure they do get it before the fact instead of after the fact.
We may want to require electronic transmission as well. I don't know. Both, because sometimes that's fast.
That's fine.
Email and electronic and certified.
So this is in section D,
Page 6D.
line 192.
Right.
Section D, starting with line 192, is the section that deals with that notification.
So then should it be 30 days following the receipt of certified mailing?
We don't
That's how you
generally.
normally word it.
We don't generally do it from receipt because if someone doesn't pick up their mail,
Yeah.
they may
Okay.
never receive it. So generally you do it by mailing date.
I'm always suspect of things that come in.
Pardon?
Pick it
Here's
up.
my question.
Absolutely, Representative.
Line 328, page 10. What was the rationale of striking out the Department of Labor?
That would put all the properties, we've got every other department with the exception of the Board of Regents. Here, unifying it all and bringing everything all together. Board of Labor is kind of just an oddball man out.
Because I saw in earlier, it makes reference to the Board of Regents, then it makes reference to the Department of Labor, then it makes reference to another one too somewhere. I thought.
This leaves only the Board of Regents because they do have a complete separate ruling body. They are pretty much separate than the rest of the state.
The Properties Commission administers space management for all state entities, with the exception of just these two. And since Board of Regents is a specialized unit, they have an exception, but Department of Labor's exception has been has been highlighted in an audit of the Properties Commission that was done last year, that for consistency sake statewide, Properties Commission should seek to remove this exemption. So that's why it's in there.
Okay, so this is bringing the Department of Labor properties under the state properties.
Statewide space management, yes.
Representative Buckner.
I can't call this up in memory bank, but I thought there was a reason that the Department of Labor had been left out. Like, they go in and rent space in a very quick fashion after there's been a down, like a company goes under, and they go in and set up a training area, or they move into a community very quickly, and and this bill is evidence, the need of this bill's evidence of you couldn't do it fast enough for them, so they were given an exception to be able to lease property. Am I just imagining that?
Real property here, not maintained property.
Yeah, but I didn't know if this would affect that. If they are going in and leasing property for a short term of 6, 8, 9 months, a year to help workers in an area, they could quickly get in and lease it. And is this exception in there for a reason that we need? I just don't know. I'm just asking the question. There's a reason it's in here. I don't know why, and if we take it out, are we going to cause a problem?
Right now, I would assume they could, the Department of Labor could convey some property they own right now themselves.
No.
What's in?
I want to say they could switch to federal funds and go in and rent some space and use it when there's a big factory that closes down. They go in, they provide training. They may be there for a year and a half or so, but for them to wait on the Properties Commission to help them find the property and rent it and use it and then get out of it when the time comes to leave, it was the time lag was problematic for them, and so they were allowed to do some of their own rentals. I may be totally wrong, but I just vaguely remember something about that.
And I think,
And you jeopardize this federal fund somehow.
and I think they'll still have the authority to do that if it's only for 1 year or less, correct? Even with what you're doing here?
The only thing this would do, in Representative Butler, you're exactly right. The original reason Department of Labor asked to be removed was because they felt like the Properties Commission could not move as expeditiously. And this doesn't have anything to do with selling property. This is just when they want to go lease a piece of property. We can now move just as quickly as they can and can give them flexibility. What this allows is a consistent standard for size of offices, for how space is administered. I think a lot of other agencies would try to make the argument that maybe they could move faster, but for consistency's sake, for having one oversight entity overlook all of space management, this allows that consistency. And while you are correct, that was their intentional argument, is that they could move quicker. We would argue we could move just as quick. Not in this. In leases. No, certainly not. But removing this would only allow consistent management of space, and we would certainly not do anything that would jeopardize a labor force or labor's need to get into a location quickly.
Further questions from the committee?
Now, one other thing I will note,
Okay.
and we will need to correct on page 3, at the end of line 66, as the Interstate Commerce Commission was out of business in 1994, we do need to add or successor agency or whatever the proper terminology is there. Otherwise, you could not get that written appraisal because there would not be anybody to get it from.
Where is it come from?
Where are we getting those from now? Mr. Smith, do you know?
I don't know who the successor entity is to the Interstate Commerce Commission. I don't know.
But if we add the successor entity, that takes care of it?
Yes.
Any further comments? Yes. Pass the microphone down there so we can make sure we hear her over the internet.
I'll whisper. I would like to request a change at line 171. This was an oversight on my part in working on the committee sub with lead counsel. I believe we need to remove the underlined portion or an easement, since we're talking about conveyances generally that will be allowed to move through the State Properties Commission. We needed to include easements as well.
So you want to delete
Or an easement.
Okay.
Just put back
Well, easements are included in conveyance by virtue of the definition that we've inserted at the beginning. So we need to make sure the easements are included in those conveyances the State Properties Commission can authorize. And of course, those are still subject to your oversight if you have any objections to those as well.
comments or any more questions from the committee? Let me ask the committee, back to conceptual. the value that is included in this bill is properties of $500,000 or less. Are you comfortable with $500,000 being the threshold?
Where did that come from? That number?
We looked at, since the year 2000, there have been 141 conveyances, and we broke that down into boundary line disputes, took out ground leases, and then we found that there was 76 of those that had been conveyed to a local government entity, so we removed those as well. That left us with about 22 conveyances that were sold for fair market value. About 50% of those are over this threshold we have here. The average sale price is $1.39 million for the properties that would be brought to the General Assembly. So if you look at, we say 80-20 rule, but it's really higher than that. The 22 conveyances that were for fair market value make up almost 90% of the value of the property that was sold over the past 12 years. So what that lets you know is that small properties being sold to cities and counties make up a large number of properties, but the value, there's only 22 of those, but the value of that is substantial, and that's what will be brought to the General Assembly for approval. So we would 500,000 is great, but the $1 million would be the threshold that would be justified by the number.
Yeah, you're not going to get $1 million.
I understand. Yes, sir. But I was just saying that's how we were trying to get to a number.
But we've got a factual basis for the 500,000.
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
A conservative, politically acceptable from the State Properties Commission's perspective. My question to the members of the committee, is that politically acceptable to you? Okay. Okay, I think we have a few things that we need to address just to make sure that we have. Ms. Smith, you have something else?
We had one other change of wording in here. In section D, which would be about line 192, if we could change it there to read, when a conveyance is to be approved by the commission shall give written notice of the property that has been declared surplus by the custodian agency, and the notice shall include the previous use of the property, size, and location.
Can I look at that?
That would probably helpful. And I think we also there,
changing of the wording in there.
I think while we're making changes there, I think we also, if I understand the will of the committee, we also want to make sure that this is certified mail and electronic transmission as well. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, maybe I talk concepts while Terry's looking at the actual language.
Okay.
What we'd like to do here or suggest is that notice is given, and every legislator is allowed 30 days once a property is declared surplus.
Yeah, I got it that way. I don't know if it's not 30 days from when it's declared surplus. It's 30 days from when you give written notice that the property has been declared surplus.
We just want to be sure it's not 30 days prior to a meeting.
No, it's not. It's not that right now.
Okay.
It's not 30 days when it's declared surplus. It's 30 days when they propose to convey it.
Yeah.
It was that way, but they've changed it, and it is changed in this draft. It says 30 days prior written notice of intention to convey property which has been declared surplus.
Okay. All right.
So it does say that right now.
All right.
It's just different wording because I was in a hurry. Sorry.
That's completely fine. Just wanted to be sure.
What is the intention?
Absolutely.
Just so written notice.
That it wasn't 30 days prior to a meeting, so that we didn't spend money going through appraisals and surveys and then have
But you're actually giving notice of intent to convey. I wasn't real clear about that, and maybe we need to say that part in there. And not necessarily 30 days before the meeting where you're going to meet, but 30 days notice shall include, the intention to convey it.
If, Mr. Chairman, if something is declared surplus and you're not going to convey it yet, then why does it need to be notification?
Yeah, that was what I was saying. Yeah, and I think it's written that way, actually. If you read that sentence again, I did change that sentence. Read that real close. It is different from that last draft. 30 days prior written notice of its intention to convey property which has been declared surplus. And then if you go on down, any member has to object to the conveyance in writing not later than 30 days following the mailing of the notice. So there's no mention of the meeting. There's no reference to the meeting. Is that okay? Okay, I'll leave it.
No, the sentence starts out with prior to the meeting. I think that's where the confusion came from.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's just left over. Okay. We do need to check that out, probably.
Strike that.
Yeah.
Clarify that.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay.
You trying to pass that this year? Are you trying to pass this year? Okay. If you weren't, I was going to make another suggestion.
You go ahead.
It's okay. Don't have time to make another suggestion.
Do you have, Ms. Long, do you have the language that we're looking for there for lines 192 through whatever that it's going to end up being?
I'm close.
Keep working on that.
Okay.
Keep working on that while we talk conceptually a little bit more.
So it doesn't matter when it's declared surplus. You can have something declared surplus and just sitting there forever. But if you could, but
hopefully not be.
well,
Declaration of surplus is saying, okay, properties commission,
get rid of
it. We don't have to spend money to maintain it, secure it.
Right. All right, so you declare something surplus, and then you do your notice of intent to convey. All right, so that notice to convey is before a properties commission meeting. I guess if I'm somebody on the outside and I'm looking for a place, how would I be made aware that had become surplus, or that there is a notice to convey? Is the notice to convey you've already cut the deal? No, it's to let people know that it's available. So when does notice happen? At the time that it becomes surplus, or is the time that it becomes surplus and the time that it's ready to convey the same time?
Hopefully it's close. So let's just use an example. A state agency, we'll use corrections since they're sitting here, declares a piece of property surplus. They're the custodian of it. It's state-owned property, but they're the user, the custodian. They have to go through a board action that would declare the property surplus. They send that resolution to the Properties Commission and says, we don't want it anymore, we want to declare it surplus. What this would say now is, now the Properties Commission would send notice to Speaker, Lieutenant Governor, and the local delegation to say, now we have an intent to convey, and then we would wait 30 days and allow one single legislator that has an issue, if they put that issue in writing, and it doesn't go to the State Properties Commission meeting to be heard and move forward. But if there is no objection after that period, then it would move forward with getting appraisals, public advertisement. So, John Q. citizen doesn't see an advertisement until after the no objection from the General Assembly, and we're ready to move forward.
So that timeline is supposed to save you time, does it? Okay.
Now, some property can be declared surplus and never conveyed. Is it?
Absolutely.
It's just not conveyed.
If it's surplus to corrections, but juvenile justice wants it, we're going to, hang on to that and look at an executive order transferring custody to juvenile justice.
I want to go back to Representative Buckner was pursuing the Department of Labor exemption. When you're talking about Department of Labor rents, are Department of Labor rents federal dollars that are paying those rents and would not be able to go through the state properties? Is that part of the reason why it's been exempted?
Attorney to kick me if I say something wrong, but she'll.
I'm going to be watching for that too. Okay.
I need better peripheral vision.
I'm not going to warn you. I'm just going to watch.
That's right. Just not.
It'll be recorded.
That's right. No, sir. The rent is still paid by the agency. So the Department of Labor would still pay the rent. Properties Commission is not the one paying the rent. We're just having the oversight of the property.
So the Department of Labor is paying rent with federal dollars. Those federal dollars would come through the Department of Labor and go straight to the landlord and would not pass through state properties. You all would just be overseeing the lease.
And no rent dollars come through the Properties Commission.
Okay. And you do not have a bump on your leg from a kick or anything.
I know, I didn't jump.
Representative Buckner?
The only thing about that I remember them was that they was not so much that the money had to go through the Properties Commission. It was that they needed to get out and quit having to use money to pay. They would have only a certain amount of federal money for rent for so long, and they couldn't get in and out quick enough, and they brought that up. Does that clear that up? I just remember them saying something about it wasn't timely enough.
They request to be taken out.
They requested to be exemption back in 2005.
So prior to 2005, was state properties managing their leases?
I don't know exactly what space management was responsible for with regard to the Department of Labor. And when we were competing.
Yeah, let's make sure that we can hear her on the internet.
I'm not sure what was happening prior to 2005 between Space Management and the Department of Labor. Space Management at that time was with the Department of Administrative Services, and it was in 2005 that it was being moved to State Properties Commission. So when we were developing the transfer and code, it was when the Department of Labor requested the exemption.
Okay.
They're aware of this, ma'am?
I believe they're aware of it. I haven't contacted them directly, no, sir. It's been in a prior, when we introduced disposition legislation last year, the request to remove them, or remove their exemption, was also in the legislation.
Any other questions, comments? Any comments from the public? Okay, Ms. Long, you've been working on lines 192 through.
Yes.
Okay.
I think,
We're gonna hold off just for a second to see. Was there other areas that any members saw that we might need to make an adjustments? I know line 66.
66 or successor agency. 171, we're taking out or an easement. We're going to delete basically that beginning on line 192. We're just going to delete all the way through the comma. So that first line and part of the second line will be gone, and we'll just start the sentence, the commission shall give no less than 30 days prior notice. So that confusing introductory part is gone. And
then we're putting in there that, about the written notification, or the certified mail and electronic transmission.
yes.
Where would that be?
At the end of the sentence there, after surplus, after period, it would say, notice shall be made by certified mail and electronic transmission.
Okay. All right. Any other areas that we need to address, or does everything else look good to the committee?
Ask committee sub, by committee sub with amendment.
Okay, here's what we're going to do. Representative Kidd has moved to pass by committee substitute. Representative Jones, okay, I couldn't tell if it was you or Representative Bugner. I thought it was you. Has seconded. Ms. Long has identified those amendments that we're going to make, and I'm going to get you to do that one more time. Or is everybody clear? Is everybody clear? Everybody clear? Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 495. Meeting adjourned.
Wow.